In the last video, we saw how to use local storage and session storage for persistence data. Now, in this video, we are going to go into somewhat more APIs which I did not discuss in last video. In this case, in the last video, we saw set item, get item, remove item, clear. In this case, we will also look at some events which are available on web storage APIs. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's start with a particular. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so right now you can see that there is no storage right now. Okay, what I will do is that I will do some storage called local storage called, let's say, counter. Okay, so counter, and I'll start with, let's say, 0. And you know that generally it should be string, but if you put numbers, they are automatically converted to string and stored, so that is fine. But there's no need to remove, just I'm trying to get some data. So you can see that counter 0 is stored and 0 is read. Rather, now I can also do something like this: const I don't know, counter is equal to this thing, and then I can print counter here. Okay, and then the same thing, now it is available here. Okay, so that is fine. Now let's say, rather than doing this set item like this, let's say we have some use effect, and in use effect we are having some set interval. Okay, I'm trying to change that every second. Okay, so let's say set interval is there. That set interval calls a function every 1 second. Okay, and okay, and better would be to clear the interval. So let's call it interval, and then we can use this value to clean it up. So return clear timeout, clear interval, sorry, in this case. Okay, so all in all looks good, and let's say I'm not setting it every time 0, rather I'm setting it whatever the current value is there plus 1. So so let's say whatever the current value is there, let's call it value only. Okay, and I'm incrementing it by 1, and more importantly it will be like it will be string, so let's call it json.parse plus 1. Okay, so now you'll see that if you go to application tab, then you'll see that you have 5, 6, 7, 8. This thing is happening, but this value is not changing. You can clearly see that this is still 0, because it is obvious, because even if internally the data is changing, I just did local storage get item once, so first time whatever it was, so right now it is like 25, 26. If I refresh, then whatever the latest value is there that I get, but the most up-to-date value that I'm not getting, because whenever I'm refreshing, that time only whatever is the data that I'm getting. Okay, turns out that there can be a requirement of listening to storage events. Okay, so there is a particular API for that. What we will do is that we will do something like this: use effect, and in that use effect I'm going to I'm going to set up a event listener. So we know that this will be like component did mount, and here I'm going to do window dot add event listener, and there is an event listener called storage. Okay, in this you can pass a function, and whenever there is change in local storage, then this function will be called. Okay, so you can say that something like you can call it storage event. Okay, so this will be called, and more importantly we know that we should also clean it up. so rather create a separate function. Let's say fn is equal to this thing, and I'll pass this as fn. And why I'm doing that? Because I need to later clean it up also, and while doing cleaning up, I will need to call remove event listener, and in that I will need to call the same thing, storage, and that same function. Okay, so in this way, when the effect is rerun, then the earlier storage event is cleaned up. Okay, so that is fine. Main thing is that whenever local storage is changing, then this storage event should be logged. Let's see, is that happening or not? We'll see that this 147 is stuck here, that is expected, but 151, 58, 52, 3, 4, it is happening. But here you can clearly see that nothing is printed, which means that this is not getting called. And why is that? If you go to the documentation of let's say storage event, then you'll see that they have clearly mentioned that storage event is fired when the local storage has been modified in the context of another document. Okay, this won't work on the same page, and that's why it is not working. Okay, if I have a separate another tab, let's say here, and here I want to see, then you will clearly see that this storage event is clearly working. Okay, and here also whatever things are happening on that basis, in the previous page also it is happening. So across the pages only these storage events are called. On the same page it does not happen, right? So you understand why both are working, because here also this use effect is running, and here also this use effect is running. Okay, if you have, let's say, 2 pages, and on one page this set interval is running, and on another page it is not running, then only this storage event will be printed on the other page. I think it is clear, right? So so how to go about it? Okay, so we can see that this sort of listening thing is only working with multiple windows. Let's try to do something like this. Let's try to create a custom hook. Okay, so we have components, right? So let's create a separate folder called hooks. Okay, and in that let's create a hook called use local storage .js. Okay, and in this I'll create a hook called use local storage. I'll export it, and in this I'm trying to reuse like most of the things. Okay, so let's see what I can reuse. The first thing I can do is I can start a particular, I can have a use state. Okay, and I can start it with, let's say, empty string, and I can name it anything. Okay, I can name it, let's say, value local storage value, I mean, and then set value. Okay, and now let's say later I will return that value. Okay, but we also need some way of setting that value, which means that here we are getting this value. So what we are trying to do is that essentially whatever we are doing, something like this we are doing. Okay, I'm just trying to show you that we are trying to simulate something like this. So let's say counter is there, then for a particular key, which means that let's say we have to pass some key also here. For that particular key, I am going to have my own events. So let's say here set here value is there, that is fine. And let's say some get item, set item is there, so let's call it set item in the same sense. Okay, so this set item, what it will do is that this is a separate function, set item, and it will internally use the set item of local storage. Okay, so local storage dot set item, and key value is there. Okay, so let's say anybody can pass any value from here, and that value can be set from here. Okay, and what is the key? What is the key? The key can be passed from here, which means that I can use something like this. I can use something like this. Use import local storage from dot slash hooks slash use local storage. Okay, and then I can do something like this. So this counter thing I'll use local storage counter. Okay, so what is happening is that I am calling this hook use local storage with the key on which the local storage value I'm interested in. I'm trying to attach so I'm trying to attach counter key with some value, and that value comes in this counter, okay, which is returned here. Okay, and now there is something called set item also. So similarly here also I'll get set set counter. Okay, anything is, this is not an object, this is just an array, so you can rename it to anything. So counter and set counter I have got. Okay, that is fine. Okay, so from here I can see that this thing is called. Okay, now when we are trying to initialize it also, then also why not initialize it with local storage dot get item. Why not initialize it with local storage dot get item and whatever is the key. So correspond key is a variable, so corresponding to this key, whatever is the item value, with that value I'm initializing it, right? And after that, if you want, you can set it to whatever value. Okay, okay, so I'm not using set value as of now, and I'll use set value when things are updated. Okay, and when things are updated, I know that I can use this storage event. Okay, so I'll take the storage event from here, I'll paste it here. Okay, and let's use effect also. And okay, so when storage event is called, then I'm calling this function. So what happens, somebody is telling me that if this thing is called, which means that somebody has updated some particular key in some in this value, in this storage, local storage, right? So it will be my responsibility to check again that what is the latest value, which means that I want to get the latest value. So let's remove this. I want to get the latest value. Let's rename it something else. I can simply call it val also, that is fine. Get the latest value and use set value to set that value. Okay, so it is saying that you should use key, because key, so let's put key here, that is fine. And now we can clearly see that whenever from any other tab, if something is, because this storage event only comes from other document, right? So from any other tab, if local storage is changed, then I'll get this event, and this function will be called, and my set value will, which means my value will be updated. However, we can clearly see that even if I do this, then in the same tab it will not be updated. Why? Because when we are getting this counter here, then you can see here that, let's refresh it. Let's have only one tab right now. Okay, and let's clean it up firstly. So whatever is there, let's say delete it. Okay, and you can clearly see that, yeah, whatever is the current value, so at that point when I refresh, let's say it was 5, so it comes, but it is incrementing, but I'm not getting the latest value. And that is because as the things are changing, first of all, I am updating it not via set counter, I am updating it directly via set item. Okay, so that is one problem, right? So what I can do is that I can do something like this. Rather than doing this, I can do something like value plus 1, not value plus 1, it counter plus 1. Yeah, okay. And again, we need to use counter here. We need to use okay, so we'll need to add this set counter also. Okay, that is fine. So the thing is that as a second passes, every second what is happening is that my set counter is called with uh, a value which is one more than the current value. Okay, and when this set counter is called, then you can see that this thing in local storage, the set item function is called, right, with the new value, which internally does the set item. So that's why we will see here again that it's 51 is there, then I got 51. Okay, so just plus 1. The problem is that I need to, yeah, so that concatenation is happening because the value which I'm getting is this counter value, that is a that is a string rather than a number. Okay, so what I need to do is that I need to ensure that whenever I'm getting a particular value, I so this value, okay, so let's say this will always be a string, right? This will always be a string, so it will be my responsibility to convert it to number. Okay, so let's do it ourselves. What we will do is that we will do json.parse or parse int integer.parse int those things also you can do, but simply this will also work. Okay, so you can clearly see that let's clean it up for now. You can clearly see that 1 2 3 this is increasing. Okay, so this is stuck at here because my counter is not updating. So this thing, whenever I'm calling set item, I also I need to get the whatever the value is being set, and I am setting it here also. What it will do is that it will update my value and the latest value will be given to here. Okay, otherwise this capturing thing will happen, and whatever is the initial captured value, that only every time it is being called, every second it is being called, but the new value is not coming, only the last captured value is coming. That's why it was not happening. Right now you can see that this is working fine, and not only that, now you can see that both are in sync. Okay, both are in sync because whenever I call set counter, I also update, I also do set value. When I do set value, then my value gets changed, and whatever the value is returned from here, that is the latest value, which means that whatever I'm using here, that will be always in sync. Okay, so yeah, so now we can clearly see that this sort of thing is happening. And again, even if I duplicate the tab, the same thing will keep on happening. Okay, so let's say I have a separate tab here, then you can see that all the updates are here also, all the updates are also here happening here also. So it is working across the tabs. Okay, but the problem is that it looks like on the same tab, now the problem is fixed. Across the tabs this event listener was always coming, but on the same tab it looks like it is working fine. But actually the thing is that whenever you are using the same hook, then only it's working. Whenever even in the same page you are using values from different components where different hooks are there at different components on the same page, then again this will not work. So see, whatever I am doing, I'm just trying to show you that all sort of global state management you cannot do using local storage. For that RxJS or Redux will be definitely a better choice. But where your requirement is persistence, which means that even if you refresh or even in Redux or RxJS, if you refresh, all your state will be gone. Okay, but if that is your requirement, then that is fine. But if your persistence is your requirement, which means that let's say 132 33 whatever is there, I go to google.com, or even if I close the browser, I came back after one day and open, you can see that again it will start from there only, because the data was already stored. This sort of requirement is there, then it is fine. Then it is fine, local storage is fine. But the problem is that the storage event which you are getting, this storage event does not work on the same page. Let me show you that thing. So let's say on a different component, so let's say header component, I'm trying to use the same thing. Okay, which means that whatever I'm trying to do on here, Let's try to do a similar thing on header. Okay, and what I will do is that I will use this counter. I have to use the same variable counter, same key, sorry, counter, and then I'll take that value and print it somewhere. Okay, I'll print it somewhere. So let's print it here only. Okay, so let's have a li with that value, printed value. Okay, let's call it something like this. You'll see that when I refresh 210, okay, then the at the point of refresh, whatever the value was there, that is there, but this thing is updating, but this thing is not updating. Why? Because again the same thing, this thing now, and now you understand that if this thing would have been in a separate window, then it would be fine. Okay, then it would be fine. In a sense that if the event whatever we want, that event is already coming here. So the thing is that even if this thing is a separate tab, but this use effect listener, okay, inside this use local storage, this will be called only on the same page, and turns out the header is still in the same page. If you see on app, then you will see that the header is still not a separate component in each of the separate routes, right? It is a separate component. So still, even if you like navigate across the pages, actually the header is like not a new component, so it will still not get that event, and that's why you will see that it gets stuck. Like when you refresh, then you get the new value, but otherwise it is not getting the latest value. So it turns out that that is the issue which I was saying, that if you are trying to these are some of the issues where if you want to get the real-time value, then still you are good to go with RxJS or Redux. But if persistence is your more primary concern, and that it should persist, then you should be good to go with local storage. Okay, and in local storage you can do like whatever I told, that much you don't need to do, but I was just trying to set up an example that if you want, then you can create somewhat a situation, somewhat a custom hook where you can get almost close to that sort of thing, like global storage. But still, this is like not a full-fledged global storage solution. But definitely, if you want a persistence one, then this will be working fine. Just you have to note that you don't have to rely on real-time updates in the same page. What you have to do is that the storage is persistent, but whenever I want to get the actual value, you can get the actual value from so here you can add your like next, like get item sort of thing, and like set item, you have to implement get item here, and then you have to particularly get the get item, and you have to return this value. Okay, and you could obviously update it also, but the main point is that at least you should get the value. So let's say const val is equal to this thing, and you can set that value, that is fine, but more importantly you should rely on the value returned from here as the actual value at this point of time, because real-time updates may not work on the same page. Okay, but anyways, you got a flavor. The main idea of this video was to show you that something like storage event exists, which can be used for cross tab cross document communication of storage events. Okay, so that will be all for this one. Thanks a lot.